In the past videos that I've put out talking about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, I've talked about the giant balloons and the novelty balloons. In today's video, I'd like to take a look at two different types of specialty balloons that have been featured in the parade over the years. Those being the Falloon, which is a mixture of a float and a balloon, and the Balloonicles, which is a mixture of a balloon and a vehicle that is self-propelled. If you haven't seen my other videos talking about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, make sure to check those out. And if you like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Let me know your favorite balloon featured in this video. I do apologize for having to say the word Falloon and Balloonicle as many times as I'm going to in this video. They're both very silly words. The concept of the Falloon was introduced to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 1986, with the first Falloon being the Chipmunk's Adventure. This balloon ran for just 1 year in 1986 and was sponsored by the Samuel Goldwyn Company. Though Alvin and the Chipmunks had been featured in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade dating all the way back to 1961, this was the first time that they had had a balloon. This balloon was meant to tie into the release of the movie The Chipmunk's Adventure. Eventually, this balloon would be recycled and become the Babar the Elephant balloon that was seen in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in 1991. The year 1990 would see the next Falloon enter the parade, with one themed after the Wizard of Oz. This one would again only run for 1 year in 1990 and was sponsored by Turner Entertainment. Also featured in the year 1990 was the Falloon for Paddington Bear. Now, I actually mistakenly labeled this as a giant balloon in my first Macy's Thanksgiving Day video, so I do apologize for that mistake, and I'm happy to be able to make that correction here today. This balloon would be featured in the parade in the years 1990 to 1992, as well as 1997. It was brought back in 1997 to celebrate the 40th year of Paddington. The next year in 1991, there would be a Falloon called the Magical World of Mother Goose. This float would include a 3-story tall balloon of Humpty Dumpty and featured other fairy tale characters including Little Bo Peep, Little Miss Muffet, Old King Cole, Little Boy Blue, and of course, Mother Goose herself. In 1991, we would also have a Falloon called Sporting Life, which was sponsored by Rawlings and was in the shape of a giant baseball and mitt. This Falloon would be featured in 2 different parades, in 1991 and then again in 1993. As we move into 1993, the next Falloon that we'll mention is called the Little Drummer Boy, and it would run in the parade from 1993 to 1994, with its sponsor being Macy's. And then the Falloon would return in 2004 and 2005, this time sponsored by the Universal Orlando Resort, and at that time its name would be changed to Holiday Beat. 1993 would also see the introduction of the Falloon Elf in the Box, which was sponsored by Macy's. This balloon would be featured in the parade for only 2 years, those being 1993 and 1994. As we move into 1994, the next Falloon I want to mention is Sea Venture. This Falloon was sponsored by Macy's and was active in the parade from 1994 to 1997, and then again in 1999. In 1995, the M&Ms would be featured in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for the first time with a Falloon called Chocolate Colorworks. This Falloon would run for 3 years from 1995 until 1997, and it featured a 10-foot tall blue M&M who was the newest M&M character at the time. The next year in 1996, we would be introduced to the Snow Family Holiday Falloon. Later on, it would change its name to Winter Holiday. The years that this Falloon would be active were 1996 to the year 2000. And the sponsors for this one were the Family Channel from 1996 to 1997. And then when that channel itself rebranded to the Fox Family Channel, it would continue to sponsor the balloon those last remaining years. In 1997, Macy's would celebrate 100 years of Jell-O with a float called World of Wiggle, sponsored by Jell-O. The balloons on this float, like all of the Falloons that we have mentioned so far and will continue to mention, were cold air balloons. The World of Wiggle Falloon would be active in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in the years 1997 and then 1999 to 2000. The year 1997 would also see the introduction of the Falloon How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This Falloon was active in the year 1997 with the sponsor Determined Productions, and then again in the year 2002 with Universal Orlando Resort being the sponsor. As we move into 1998, the M&Ms get a new Falloon, this one titled M&M's Network. This one trying to show a behind-the-scenes look at Hollywood. The years that this Falloon was active were 1998 to the year 2003, and of course it was sponsored by M&M's Chocolate Candies. Another 1998 Falloon was Heimlich from the movie A Bug's Life. This Falloon followed closely behind the P.T. Flea Circus float. It was active for only 1 year in 1998 and was sponsored by, of course, Disney and Pixar. The Heimlich balloon would be repurposed as just a generic caterpillar later on during the 2001 Macy's Flower Show. And the final new Falloon of 1998 was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This one was sponsored by Good Times Entertainment and was active from the years 1998 until 2001. This is the second float that featured Rudolph, though it was the first one that was a balloon. And like many of the different Falloons on this list, he did suffer some technical difficulties during his first run, though they were able to re-inflate him as the parade went on. In 1999, Animal Planet would sponsor a float titled Amazing Creatures of the Wild. The Falloon here was the inflated Earth, and it was joined on the float by a 30-foot alligator, as well as representations of other animals, including an elephant, a panda, and an ostrich. This Falloon was active in the parade from the years 1999 until 2004. This next Falloon that was introduced in 1999 was a real nostalgia kick for me, and that is the Pets.Community Falloon, sponsored by Pets.com. This balloon was 36 feet tall and featured the famous mascot of Pets.com, a sock puppet. Now, the sock puppet was only active for 1999, but it almost returned in 2000, but was stopped by the fact that the company shut down 2 weeks before the parade. In the year 2000, we saw the Green Dog Falloon added to the parade. The sponsor for this balloon was Green Dog, which was a children's clothing brand created by Macy's department store. This clothing brand would be active until the year 2013, even though this specific balloon only ran for 1 year. It was actually upgraded the next year in 2001 with Green Dog's World. This balloon would run from 2001 until 2004, and it included the dog, a ball, a food dish, and a doghouse. 2003 saw a new Falloon sponsored by Macy's introduced to the parade, and it featured the character Percy the Poor Little Penguin on a float titled Percy and the P-Birds. This tied in with a musical that was featured in Macy's Holiday Review. We move into 2004, and Fisher-Price sponsored a float titled The Magic of Childhood, which featured a balloon of one of their most popular toys, the Rock-a-Stack. The float was meant to celebrate 75 years of Fisher-Price, and also had some of their other classic toys like Chatter Telephone and Little People. Now, the Falloon had been introduced back in the 80s, but the Balloonicle finally shows up for us here in the year 2004. Remember, these are self-propelled cold air balloons. Now, the first Balloonicles featured in the parade were sponsored by Playskool and were meant to promote Weebles, which were a toy that had actually been featured in the parade in the past as a giant balloon. These ones specifically were the characters Tibby, Tui, and Bumpus. They would be featured in the parade from 2004 until 2006. The next year in 2005, a new Falloon would be introduced called Big Apple, which featured an inflated apple on a float of New York City. This was sponsored by the New York Daily News and was active in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade from the year 2005 until 2017. A new Balloonicle would also be introduced this year with Snowbo. This balloon would be in the parade from 2005 until 2007. It was sponsored by Macy's itself in 2005 and 2007, but in the year 2006, it was sponsored by Universal Orlando Resort. 2006 saw the introduction of the Energizer Bunny Balloonicle. It was sponsored by Energizer from the year 2006 to 2009, and then because the company changed its name, it was sponsored by Energizer Battery Incorporated from 2010 to 2011. The Smurfs would get their own Falloon in 2008 with the Smurfs Mushroom House. This float would run from 2008 until 2014 and would be joined by the Papa Smurf Giant Balloon starting in 2012. The sponsors for this float were Sony Pictures Home Entertainment from 2008 to 2011, and then from 2012 to 2014, Sony Pictures Animation sponsored the float. The Disney movie Bolt was also featured in the parade with its own Falloon. This float would only run in the year 2008, and of course was sponsored by the Walt Disney Animation Studio. Bolt was joined by his two co-stars, Mittens and Rhino, as well as Miley Cyrus, who did provide her voice for the movie. In 2010, we're going to see a few new Balloonicles, the first one being the Kool-Aid Man. This balloon would be active in the parade from 2010 until 2015, and would be sponsored by Kraft Foods from 2010 to 2013, Kraft in 2014, and the Kraft Heinz Company in 2015. I really never noticed how often Kraft was kind of changing its name. Now the next two Balloonicles I'm going to mention actually did not make it into the 2010 parade, though they did try their best. The first one to mention is the Red Holiday Ornament. It was sponsored by Macy's, and though it did not make it into the parade on its first try, it did make it in the 2 following years, 2011 and 2012. The same cannot be said for its partner balloon, the Blue Holiday Ornament, which was not allowed to kind of carry over into those next years. It was also sponsored by Macy's and only tried to run in 2010. In 2011, we would have a new balloon called PB Polar Bear. This float was created to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Macy's Holiday Parade, which is another parade that Macy's puts on at Universal Orlando Resort in Orlando, Florida. This balloon would only be featured here in the Macy's Parade in the year 2011 and was sponsored by Universal Orlando Resort. The Aflec Duck would also join the parade as a Balloonicle in 2011. He would run in the parade until 2013 and was, of course, sponsored by the Aflec Incorporated. In 2012, we would see another balloon float hybrid with Goldfish on parade. This balloon ran in the parade from 2012 to 2014 and was sponsored by Pepperidge Farms. The float featured different characters from the packaging and commercials of the Goldfish brand. I wasn't aware that they had names, but I guess they're Finn, Gilbert, Brooke, and Extreme. 2013 saw a new balloon titled A World at Sea, sponsored by Royal Caribbean International. This float would run from 2013 to 2015, and during its first and last runs in the parade, it did have to be deflated and then reinflated for unknown reasons. 2013 also saw the Balloonicle Trixie's Dreidel, and it was sponsored by Macy's and was meant to celebrate the first time since 1888 that Thanksgiving fell on the first night of Hanukkah. If you watched my last video talking about novelty balloons, you would have seen Chloe the Holiday Clown, and Chloe the Holiday Clown returns to the parade in 2014 in its third version as a Balloonicle. It would only be in the parade for this 1 year and was sponsored by Universal Orlando Resort. 2014 would also see the second version of the Aflec Duck. This time he would be putting on ice skates, and this version of the balloon would be active in the parade from 2014 until 2016. In 2016, this unique Balloonicle titled Mother Ginger was added to the parade. Now, Mother Ginger is a character from the Nutcracker Ballet, and this Balloonicle was sponsored by Universal Orlando Resort. The character would return to the parade in future years, though it would be somebody on stilts instead of somebody in a Balloonicle. In 2017, we would see a new balloon, this one titled Parade Day Mischief. This was sponsored by the Sour Patch Kids candy brand, and in the first year that it was in the parade, it had a recreation of Hobo Clown that originally debuted in the Macy's Parade in 1949 as a giant balloon. He would not return though, and in future years would be replaced by a mock hot air balloon. 2017 sees the third and final version of the Aflec Duck Balloonicle. This one ran from 2017 to 2019, and it saw the duck riding on an inner tube. In 2018, we had the Balloonicles Go Bowling, which were sponsored by the website Go Bowling. This set of balloons was made up of a 14-foot bowling ball, 6 16-foot tall pins, and 2 14-foot long bowling shoes. Also in 2018, we had a set of 3 Balloonicles sponsored by Sinclair Oil Corporation. These baby dinos would be in the parade from 2018 until 2014. The next year, 2019, we had a new balloon on the float called Blues, Clues, and You. This float would be active from 2019 until 2022 and was sponsored by Nickelodeon. Over the years, all 3 of the different hosts of Blues Clues, Steve, Joe, and Josh, have ridden on the float. 2021 sees maybe my favorite balloons that we will be talking about today, and those are the Gravy Pirates. Now, the Gravy Pirates actually are made up of 3 Balloonicles and 1 Floaloonicle, which is just the most ridiculous word I think I've ever had to say. The Floaloonicle was the pirate ship, which was part balloon, part float, part vehicle. The Gravy Pirate ship was joined by 3 Balloonicles known as the Dishmates. There was Mr. and Mrs. Carrot, Drumby, a turkey leg, and Mashy, a living bowl of mashed potatoes. All these were sponsored by Heinz and would only be featured in the parade this 1 year. 2022 would see a balloon titled the Wonder Ship, which was sponsored by Wonder Bread. This float was meant to celebrate 101 years of the company Wonder, and it said that the Wonder Ship could hold 4,552 loaves of Wonder Bread. 2002 also saw the first Balloonicle to accompany a giant balloon, and that being the Cheese, featured in A Diary of a Wimpy Kid. This Balloonicle is still in the parade today, running from 2022 until the present year, which is 2025. This is sponsored by Abrams Books. The final new Balloonicle of 2022 was Striker, the U.S. soccer star. This Balloonicle would be active in the parade just this one year, 2022, and was sponsored by Fox Sports, and it was joined by a number of novelty soccer balls. And then that brings us to the current year, 2025. The only new Falloon that we're going to be seeing this year is On the Float Friendsgiving in Pop City, which features Labubu and Makoko in the form of 16-foot tall fuzzy inflatable sculptures, and they're joined by other Pop Mart figures, including Skull Panda, Peach Riot, Demu, Molly, and Daku. One of the new Balloonicles we'll be seeing in the parade this year is Happy Hippo Triple Stack, which features the 3 different versions of the Happy Hippo balloon that have been featured in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade over the years. That Balloonicle will be joined by the Frost Pips, which are sponsored by the Lumastella Company, which, if you don't know, is the company behind the Elf on the Shelf brand. There are 4 different Frost Pips, each in a different color flower: a blue one, a purple one, a teal one, and a green one. These colors are meant to represent the different colors of the Northern Lights. And then the final Balloonicle is Sussie in a Flower Pot from Netflix's Kpop Demon Hunters. This Balloonicle will be paired with the novelty balloon Derpy Tiger. The Balloonicle is going to be sponsored by Netflix and Sony Pictures Animation, and this balloon is part of a big push that Netflix is doing for Kpop Demon Hunters at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which of course features the singing voices of Huntrix performing live during the show. And those are the balloons that I have for you today. Make sure to let me know your favorite in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you like this kind of content. If you'd be interested in hearing about just all the floats that have been featured in the parade over the long history of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, please let me know. Take care. I'll see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving.